Just a quick update, the Patreon page is now live. The link will be down below if you want to check it out. You'll have access to all of my betting packages and much more. Thanks again for all the support, but for now, let's get into the video.
Yo, what's up guys, we're back. We're going to be doing a big card this week, UFC 265. It's Derrick Lewis vs. Ciryl Gane, and it's for the interim UFC title fight, but obviously, I mean, me personally, I don't know how a lot of people feel. I don't really feel like this is a true title fight. I think Francis Ngannou is still clearly the heavyweight champion of the world, but nonetheless, it's a big pay-per-view card. There's a lot of fun fights on there, and I'm excited to break it down. Before we get started, I just want to make sure all you guys hit that like button. So everyone watching, hit the like. Let's try to get 200 likes this week on this video. That would be really awesome. It would really help the channel grow. So if you're watching, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and make sure to check out all the content that's going to be coming on the channel. Before we get to the breakdowns, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsors sponsoring this video. First, we have EquitySportsAnalytics.com. They're currently up 52 units this year. They have a minimum profit goal of 96 units, so definitely are striving for a lot of success this year. They've been doing really well. They have a 4-day free trial going on right now, so if you want to check it out free of charge, you could see what they have to offer. They also have the dividends program going on as well, where if you do lose money over a 2-week period, they will pay you back $25 per unit lost. So you're going to be making a little bit of money back there. Or if you want to just wager $25 per unit, they will pay you back all your money on the wagers lost if they lose money over a 2-week period. And they're just great guys, man. They give an awesome service. So definitely check them out. Friends don't let friends gamble without math. EquitySportsAnalytics.com. They're a great website, and I definitely recommend them. And then last but not least, you have the Fanatics Fantasy MMA app. This is an application where you could do and input predictions on certain fights, upcoming MMA events. It's a really fun app. It's I'll show you right now. For instance, you could make picks for obviously UFC 265 coming up. So let's say I'm going to pick Ciryl Gane by decision. You'll be getting triple or nothing odds, minus 355. So basically, you would have to risk $355 to win 100. And then if you get it correct on the decision, you will get 3-1. So you get 3-1's odds boosted on that. But that's basically how they do it. They do off the Vegas odds. You're wagering either $100 on an underdog or to win $100. And at the end they tally it up and they see how you did against the Vegas odds. They give you your plus minus on the event, and that's how you get scored. They have a lot of events here. They obviously got Bellator 264, which is coming up. They even have the PFL. They have Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul. So they're covering all the bases, man. They also have leaderboards you could check out. You compared to the competition, different groups. MMA Twitter group. They got my group, the MMA Prediction Guru group. And me personally, I am giving away $100 to the winner at the end of the year, who has the most money made at the end of the year versus Vegas. So if you want to get involved, I am going to be putting a link in the description and below. So make sure to check that out. Sign up for the Get Fanatics app. It's on the App Store, and it's also in the link that I'm going to be giving in the description. If you sign up to my group, you end up in first place at the end of the year. You're going to be getting a free $100. It's not like you have to put any money in. It's free of charge. So definitely would recommend you guys get involved in that. Trying to get that free $100 and just get involved a little bit more in the community. It's a lot of fun. So definitely think the Get Fanatics Fantasy MMA app is really cool. And I really appreciate both of those guys sponsoring the video. But now we're going to get into the first fight of the night. We got Munoz Jr. taking on Jamey Simmons. We got two grapplers here, two guys that are trying to get their first UFC win. Munoz Jr., he's 28 years old. He's coming out of California. 10-1 record, and he is coming off his first loss where he had a very weird fight with Nathan Maness, and he actually got a point taken away in that fight. And it's been a year since that fight, so I expect him to be a better version of himself. He also was coming in on short notice for that fight as well. This fight he's had a full camp. He's still developing as a striker for sure. He's a good athlete and he has some speed and movement, but his hands are pretty much non-existent. I mean, you'll throw some big overhands or kind of like flim-flam type punches to get in on the legs, but most of his strikes on the feet are kicks. He has decent leg kicks from the outside. He'll throw some body kicks. He can throw kicks with both legs to all parts of the body. He isn't really looking to do damage with his kicks. It's more just kind of to give his opponent something to think about, to back him up and to set up his takedowns. He did get a couple low blows in his last fight that he threw, which did get a point taken away from him. So that's something that, maybe he has to be a little bit better with the target of his kicks. And he does throw some naked kicks sometimes, which can get him countered. He did get dropped against a fighter named Musa Tolliver due to that. But he's shown to be pretty durable. He's never been finished as an amateur or a pro. And he's a specialist. If he can't get the fight to the mat, he's not going to be able to win versus very many fighters. But he's been able to implement his game on basically every fighter that he's faced outside of a few moments. Even his fight with Nate Maness was a lot of grappling. And Johnny Munoz Jr. is a great grappler, man. He has great wrestling skills to go with his elite jiu-jitsu. He's been a black belt for a long time. And he has great timing on his double legs. He'll shoot reactive doubles. He also is good at shooting underneath his own strikes. And he's really good at, mauling fighters against the cage. A large majority of Johnny Munoz's fight with Nate Maness was in that position. I actually felt he should have won the fight, but he just didn't have a ton of offense from there. He is really good at, from that double underhooks position, elevating, hitting slams, taking the back, tripping fighters. So he has good takedowns in the clinch, but not much in terms of damage. When he gets on top, he transitions like butter. He has really good control. You could tell he has really elite jiu-jitsu. He does accept bottom at times, though. He will pull guard, and he has a good leg lock and sweep game, but it can look bad sometimes to kind of just try to invite fighters to the mat, especially if they don't oblige. I think, Munoz goes to that more when he's tired, but he definitely has faith in his jiu-jitsu, and he looks in incredible shape coming into this fight. Like you said, I expect a better version of him coming in here. He's probably going to be pumped up off of his first loss of his career. Jamey Simmons, he had a rough UFC debut himself. He had to go in there against the top guy in Giga Chikadze, and unfortunately he got knocked out pretty predictably. He's a little bit small for the division in my opinion, but he's a well-rounded guy. He's a good athlete, good movement, really good wrestling, and he's going to be the superior striker in this fight, especially with his hands. He has a lot of speed. He does a very good job faking the level changes and then come in with the power right cross, and he will try to land some pull twos. He is really fast in and out, and he also has pretty good low kicks. In the pocket, though, he's not that good. His chin is also pretty questionable. He also has a tendency to not set up his takedowns, so he can level change into guillotines, into strikes that knock him out. And, I have seen him level change right into a knee, right, like in the first 20 seconds of the fight, get finished against a fighter named Jake Childers. He did get knocked out in his last fight with a high kick against Giga Chikadze. And Jamey Simmons is a strong grappler. He is a former college wrestler. He's a Wisconsin State champion high school wrestler. Good double leg. He will punch his way into the body lock. And on top, it seems like he has okay ground and pound, but doesn't seem like he has very good jiu-jitsu. I don't think he should really wrestle in this fight, because if he does, he's just putting himself in danger of being submitted or swept. He's been submitted before, and I think he just needs to try to use his speed, cut angles, walk Munoz Jr. into strikes, and keep it standing. He starts really fast. Simmons does. 7 of his 10 fights have ended in the first round. But he does have pretty good cardio. He can keep a decent wrestling pace. But with this fight, I just think Munoz is the much bigger guy, and I think he's the vastly superior grappler. He needs to use his movement, try to just frustrate Simmons a little bit, and then just try to pull him into a takedown. And Simmons, he has to try to, cut angles, land counters, look for that counter too, look to try to time the kicks of Munoz with, counter punches. And if he can land really clean, maybe he'll be able to knock him out, but these are smaller guys. Simmons isn't necessarily a big power puncher. Munoz has shown a good chin. And, Simmons at the end of the day is a wrestler. He's a grappler at heart. I feel like eventually they're going to start grappling. I think Munoz is going to be able to get into his dominant positions and probably find a submission in this fight. I feel like, he's the superior athlete. He's the bigger guy. I think that he's just going to be able to implement his game plan, implement his will, and probably get the finish in this one. This second fight of the night is a pretty tough one to predict here, with Melissa Gatto coming in taking on Victoria Leonardo. Melissa Gatto, hopefully she can finally get back in the cage. It's been almost 3 years away from the sport for her. She got suspended for 1 year shortly after signing with the UFC due to failing a USADA drug test. And then she was linked to a fight with Maria Agapova last June, but unfortunately due to COVID it didn't go down. And it's now been over a year since that fight was scheduled. So she's getting back in there finally against Victoria Leonardo. she is only 25 years old, so it's hard to gauge how she's going to look as she's very young. She could come in much improved here, but this is going to be her first fight in the United States. Her last win has aged really well. She's coming off that first-round submission over Karolina. Outside of that, Gatto has not defeated any fighters of note, and she has 2 draws on her record. And her striking, I mean, I don't really have much to say about it. It's pretty unknown. She'll look for the left hook, some leg kicks. That's about it. Her defense looks really bad. She looks uncomfortable on the feet. But like I said, with almost 3 years off, being only 25 years old, could be a different story when she comes in here now. But Melissa Gatto, she's essentially a pure grappler from what we've seen. She's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. She has 4 submission wins. Her last 4 wins are all first-round submissions. And she likes the body lock, and she has good trips from there. I've seen her hit a couple single legs, and when she gets on top, she's a submission over position fighter. She likes to mount and attack with mounted arm bars. She has basically no takedown defense. I think she just accepts bottom position, and there have been fights where she has been dominated positionally for long periods of time. When she can't catch the submission off bottom, I feel like she may lose, but she was able to hit a Kimura off her back against Karolina. And, at the lower levels in women's MMA, even in the UFC, you may be able to pull guard, catch an armbar or two, but when you get into the higher level competition, I just don't know how effective you could really be. Watching the City Rocha versus Gatto fight, I definitely felt like Gatto was lucky to get the draw there. I felt like City Rocha actually should have got the victory. And for Victoria Leonardo, she's making her second appearance in the UFC. And her first time out was a really, tough go because she had to go in there against Manon Fiorot, who we've all, found out is a serious prospect. She also broke her arm very early in that fight, so didn't really have a chance to even show her full capabilities. And, she got knocked out in that fight. But, Victoria Leonardo, she's big for the division, and that's something that I think is going to be important here because Gatto is coming down from 135, so she might be, have a little bit of size. But Leonardo has the frame, she's big, she can match that size. And her boxing is pretty good. She has a good jab, her lead hook is pretty good. She has decent combinations. She'll double jab her way in, and she will look for some pull counters. She'll switch stances. She could throw some lead leg side kicks. And, I do think that she's the much better, more fluid, just more confident striker. Her defense also as well is not very good. I mean, she does drop her hands a lot after she throws strikes and has bad head kick defense. She's gotten hit with head kicks in multiple fights. But she's tough to finish. I mean, I've seen her get rocked in a few times and be able to come back and get the win. And, so she's tough to finish. Her last fight, she was able to last a while with a broken arm. And she doesn't really possess power, though. She has 1 TKO finish due to ground and pound. She really does look to mix it up, though. She was able to work her wrestling game and get the finish in her win on the Dana White Contender Series. And she has a good clinch game. She has good control, good knees. She has decent takedowns, pretty good, top control. She likes to take the back, good rear naked chokes. She can be taken down herself, but, she's pretty tough, scrambly. She was submitted pretty quickly against Miranda Maverick, but if you watch some of her subsequent fights after that, for instance, like against Liz Tracy, who's a pretty good wrestler, who's a jiu-jitsu girl who competes on the, submission underground and different jiu-jitsu competitions, and Liz Tracy was able to stuff a lot of her takedowns. She was able to scramble with her. She showed improved, grappling evolution in her game there. So, this one it's tough to call, man. I mean, I think that, I feel like Leonardo should be the favorite personally, and that's why I'm going to pick her. But I don't really have a strong read either way. I mean, if she gets taken down, Leonardo, she might be in major trouble. She could get embarrassed like she did against Miranda Maverick. But, to me, this fight kind of reminds me a little bit of Amanda Ribas versus Emily Whitmire. A fight where we have a girl who looked kind of bad in the striking, was a pure grappler, but had a long layoff, and now is returning at a young age, so maybe they're going to look improved here. At that point, Whitmire was, almost like a 3-1 favorite, and in this fight, Melissa Gatto is the favorite. So I just feel like Leonardo, being an underdog, being this pure striker, the more active fighter, probably a better wrestler. She's a gritty girl. She's tough to finish. She's not just going to give in there. I'm gonna go with Victoria Leonardo to win the decision in this one. With this next fight, I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on it because I already did do a breakdown on it a couple weeks ago. This is a rescheduled fight, and I still have the same opinion. I'm still going with Munoz Jr. I just feel, now it's, Anderson's even a little bit older. He turned 36 years old. He's definitely on the wrong side of, the age bracket for being a 135er. And I just feel like Munoz Jr. with the jab, with his, with his long reach, he kind of accentuates his reach with his height. Even though Anderson has the longer reach on paper, he smothers his shots, come forward, he throws winging hooks. John's, he throws straight down the middle, and he's going to have the height advantage. So I feel like, he's still going to be able to keep the range with that jab. And when Anderson closes that distance, I think he could take him down and control him really easily. And I feel like that's the easier path to victory because Anderson is dangerous on the feet with his counter punches. He comes forward, he's a little bit wild, and, he's durable and he hits hard. Munoz Jr., he's still a little green on the striking, even though I think he's the superior striker. But I do think, he has good submission defense. He has really good wrestling. And Anderson dos Santos, he has a good guillotine. But if you can take him down, if you could set up the takedown, avoid that guillotine, when you put him on his back, he doesn't have good get-ups. And he's not that dangerous from inside his full guard. His guard is fairly easy to pass. And I feel like Munoz Jr., if he can get the takedowns, can control on top, dominate positionally, and, get this easy victory. So Munoz Jr. for me is the pick here. I think that he's going to look pretty good. I feel like, a lot of people have, said that he has cardio issues. And I feel like in this fight he's going to shut a lot of people up in terms of that, even though I don't know if it's going to be indicative of him really having cardio issues or not. I just feel like he's going to be able to hit the takedowns, control on top, and it's going to be an easier fight for him, so he's not going to slow down. And maybe this is one of those fights where Johns looks good, and then in his next fight we can get him at an inflated price, for instance, like we did against Mario Batista when I bet on Batista there, and cash out on him in the future. But in this matchup, I think Munoz Jr. is improving. He's young. He's, in my opinion, a guy that is invested in the fight game. Feels like he's very, ready to go. Like he's not slacking or anything. And I think he's going to get this win. So Munoz Jr. is the pick for me. I think he's going to have a good game plan, fight, good fight IQ, and do his thing here. Man, we got a hell of a fight right here with Manel Kape taking on Ode Osbourne. And, Manel Kape, he's getting his last opportunity here to win a UFC fight. He's 0-2 in his first 2 tries, and he was a super touted prospect. He came in as a rising champion. He was actually originally slated to be an alternate for the UFC title shot, and he made his debut against a top 5 guy in Alexandre Pantoja. Felt like it wasn't the worst performance in the world, but just didn't let off enough volume and dropped a decision. He looked a little bit better in his follow-up bout against Mateus Nicolau, but dropped a competitive, controversial split decision in that one. So now the American Kickboxing Academy product is going to face Ode Osbourne, fighter coming off a nasty finish in his last fight. Osbourne was able to knock out Jerome Rivera with the first strike he landed, but it's not going to be that easy against Manel Kape. Manel Kape is super durable, and that's going to need to be on display here, though, against Ode Osbourne, who's shown power even at 145 pounds. Ode Osbourne, he got back to business in his second UFC fight. He accepted a short notice replacement. He went up a weight class, and he knocked him out in 26 seconds. And granted, it was Jerome Rivera who did not have much success in the UFC, but it just showed Osbourne's finishing ability and potential. And Osbourne's getting an opportunity here as he's fighting someone who just recently was the alternate for the UFC title. And, this can be his first flyweight fight. So in the division, he's getting a big matchup to start off. And he's weighed in at 143 pounds for his last fight. So he's going to be a big flyweight if he can make the weight and be efficient with it. He is going to have a 2-inch height advantage and 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. And if both these guys fight how they normally fight, this should be fireworks, man. Obviously, Kape hasn't really been able to show his style, but he's a dangerous knockout artist, and Osbourne's a dynamic finisher in his own right. Both fighters are aggressive. They go for the kill, so I wouldn't be surprised to see, one fighter finished here. For Ode Osbourne, his last 7 wins have ended in the first round, win or lose. 9 of his 12 overall fights have ended in round 1. And Manel Kape has finished 14 of his 15 wins. So both these guys are finishers. This fight should definitely be fireworks. And, Manel Kape, he comes forward like a bull. Osborne, he likes to use movement, slip, and rip. Sometimes Osborne can get wild in his fights, and here he has to limit that, be smarter, pick his shots, use his superior footwork, and, limit that because, Kape is very durable and he hits like a bull. You don't want to be hit by someone like Manel Kape. Just don't think you're not going to knock Kape out. He's very durable. Touch and move, keep him on the outside. And the thing about that style I don't know if Osborne has is the cardio, because he hasn't shown the ability to implement that game plan over 3 rounds or in a war. I mean, I haven't seen him in very many tough fights. He, may not need the conditioning if he gets the early finish again, but more than likely against a fighter like Kape, it isn't going to be that easy. This isn't Jerome Rivera anymore. If he can, go in there and, knock him out early, that's going to be a big statement. He's definitely a live underdog because Kape will walk into punches. He's a bit more flat-footed. Osborne is a lot faster with his feet. He has better footwork. And I think Kape, may struggle a little bit early with the, the speed and the counters of Ode Osbourne. And I feel like he may try to grapple early on, hit takedowns. And I think he could maybe even hit takedowns. One thing we know about Manel Kape is he's going to come in shape, so he could wrestle early and then push the pace late. And he needs to, come forward, feint, stay in Osborne's face, work his boxing. Osborne is really good with his eyes and at that picking and pulling game, but he does leave his hands low. Sometimes he could throw naked kicks in the pocket. Sometimes he could just get clipped because obviously he's playing a dangerous game there. And Manel Kape, he's a guy that could make you pay and knock you out for that. Kape, he has to be extremely motivated here with the 2 consecutive losses. And Osborne, he has a ton of confidence. He has finishing ability, and, he's going to be a big flyweight if he can make the weight safely. In exchanges, either fighter is liable to be hurt or knock each other out, get the knockdown. Even though neither fighter has been knocked out, I think Kape has proven his durability a little bit more. I mean, you don't really want to show how good your chin is, but Kape has done that. I mean, he's shown that he is really durable. And Osborne, he's been hit flush a couple times, but I really haven't seen him hit clean too many times. And Kape has also fought the much higher level competition. He's proven he can go deeper in fights. Osborne, is not really. One thing that is a little bit scary, though, is Manel Kape is 1-4 in decisions. So if he isn't getting the finish, he's a very iffy proposition. I don't begrudge anyone who would take the underdog shot on Osborne, but I'm going to pick Manel Kape to win this fight by knockout at some point. I just think that he may be able to land when Osborne gets a bit wild, or, he could walk Osborne down, slow him down, and finish him after he gets a little bit tired. But I do like Ode Osbourne, man. I think he's a dynamic guy. It's just there's a lot of unanswered questions with him, so it's hard to pick him against an established, even though he has no wins in the UFC, Manel Kape, he's, in my opinion, an established top 15 flyweight. So I'm going to go with Manel Kape, but very intriguing fight here. Man, we go from that fight to this one. I mean, they can't all be winners, right, I guess. But Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Jessica Penne. And, man, another super tough fight to pick here. I mean, I like KK. Actually, if you watch my channel, I picked her in certain spots where I probably shouldn't have. And she's a fan favorite. She, is a former title challenger. But she's taken a 1.5 year layoff. And her career has not gone well recently, to say the least. She's dropped 4 consecutive fights. All of them were very one-sided fights. And ever since she was the victim of that brutal knockout against Jessica Andrade, she has not won a round. So, her last fight was very hard to watch. She suffered a broken orbital early in the fight, battled hard, and was able to continue to the final bell, but just took a bad beatdown. And she obviously doesn't want to end her career like that, so she's back. She's taking on a fellow veteran of the sport in Jessica Penne. And this is a good matchup for Karolina. It's a big step down, and it's a fighter who isn't really going to pose much of a threat on the feet to her. But Jessica Penne, she's looking to jump right back into the mix with another win here. She re-announced herself to the division a little bit with the win 3 months ago in what was her first fight in almost 4 years. Even though it was a bit controversial, she got her hand raised. She snapped that 3-fight losing streak. And facing Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Winnier would give her a chance to break into that top 15 or get a top 15 opponent again. At 38 years old, I don't think Penne is going to be looking to contend for a belt or anything, but this would be a big win for her, probably the biggest win of her career. She has some decent wins, but her best win is probably against Randa Marcos. And, even though Penne is 38 and Karolina is 35, in fight years, I actually feel like Karolina is the older fighter. Because Jessica Penne, she had a lot of time off, almost 4 years off, where she wasn't competing at all. And she's had some fights where she's taken some beatings, but she's never been flatline knocked out like Karolina against Andrade. And the last 3 fights that Karolina fought, she took so much damage, man. So it's just, I don't like seeing Karolina fighting anymore. I really wish maybe she would, retire. But this is a fight where Karolina could win. She is the better striker, but she's a linear come forward striker who just stays right in your face. She has decent boxing combinations. She definitely is a better striker than Jessica Penne. But Penne, she is longer than Karolina, and she's going to be trying to work that straight left, the body kicks, the front kicks up the middle. Penne doesn't really throw with any power. She's just trying to get into that clinch and create a scramble. And Karolina obliges a lot. Karolina likes to get in that clinch. She has a really good Muay Thai clinch. She has good knees, good elbows from there. But her takedown defense isn't that great. And we haven't really seen very many people, really try to grapple heavy with Karolina. But, if you watched her last fight, she was taken down quite a bit in the clinch, man. She was, getting judo throwed and taken down by Yan Jianan. And I just don't know, girls that give Penne issues are girls that have big power that can keep her off of her, like, a Jessica Andrade, even Danielle Taylor to some extent. And, she also had the loss to Joanna, but, Karolina doesn't strike anything like Joanna. She doesn't keep the range. She's not, going to be keeping Jessica at distance with the jab. It's going to be in her face, and they're probably going to end up in the clinch. I could just see Penne hitting takedowns, maybe getting the back, getting into a dominant position, and just being able to win the minutes that way. Karolina, I don't think she has the power of those girls. I don't think she's going to be able to be a threat off bottom, like submit her with the armbar like Michelle Waterson did, or take her down like a Carla Esparza and control on top. So, I just feel like Penne is going to be able to get it to the clinch, and from there, that's where the fight's going to be won. If Karolina's too physical and can kind of dominate that Muay Thai clinch, beat up Jessica Penne, disengage, and then work her striking again, then she's probably going to be able to get a pretty easy win. But I just feel like Penne is maybe going to be able to get the takedowns, eat up some minutes, take the back. Maybe it'll be kind of ineffective grappling like her last fight, but it's going to be control. And I think it could be a split decision, really close type of fight. I'm going to pick Jessica Penne here. I don't really... Another fight I don't want anything to do with, don't have a good read. I would be interested in what you guys have to say. Who do you guys have? You think KK can come back, get a win, and retire off this win? That's kind of what I would want to see personally is, Karolina comes in here, she gets a nice win over Jessica Penne and maybe, calls it a career. But, there's not always a fairy tale ending, man. So I feel like Jessica Penne is going to be able to get this victory here. We got a fun matchup with this next fight. Ed Herman taking on Alonzo Menifield. This is, obviously a matchup between a veteran and an up-and-comer. Ed Herman, 40 years old at this point. He's been in the UFC for over a decade, man. I think he was on Ultimate Fighter number 4. And, he's won 3 fights in a row, pretty crazy. But, he's been on a good run recently. If he could beat Alonzo Menifield, he might even be able to make his way back close to that top 15. So, pretty big fight for both guys. For Alonzo Menifield, obviously, Ed Herman isn't necessarily a high-level win, but he's going to be taking on a veteran, someone that's dangerous, someone that is going to give him something to think about, and it is a cool win. It would be a fun fight to have on his ledger. With Menifield, obviously, he's a big, athletic, powerhouse type of guy. He's going to, have the speed advantage, the power advantage in this fight. And he kind of likes to work that big, straight right, the overhand right. He has pretty fast hands. He has pretty good power. Sometimes he can kind of get a little bit wild, like overextend on his punches. And he needs to try to avoid doing that because, he does put himself in the clinch. And Herman is probably a little bit better in the clinch than Alonzo is. But Alonzo, defensively, wrestling-wise, which he's going to need to show here, he's really good sprawl. I think, taking top position off the sprawl and working ground and pound, or maybe even trying to get a couple takedowns on Ed, who has bad defensive wrestling, could be effective here. and obviously just start fast. Try to take him out early because he's going to be a hittable target. You're going to have the speed, the power advantage. Herman, he's a real plotty, kind of flat-footed guy, but he's willing to brawl. He's pretty durable. He has a good left hook. He works the low calf kicks pretty good. In the clinch, he's dangerous. He has really good knees in the clinch. He'll bring elbows, and he's a good grappler. Pretty decent takedowns, dangerous with submissions. We can get on top, and he has better cardio in this fight. He has the better fight IQ. He has good veteran savvy. Obviously, we saw that in his last fight against Mike Rodriguez, and he's dangerous if he can extend the fight. Both guys are a little bit tired. He could find that finish either with a submission or a knockout. But I just think Ed is going to be way too slow in this fight. At range, I think he's going to be at a huge disadvantage. I see Alonzo being able to land big shots early. If he can't knock him out, he has to pace himself because Herman could, Homer Simpson him potentially. But I just think the way, Alonzo could lose here is only if he blows his wad early. I feel like, in the clinch, Ed Herman may be a little bit better, but Alonzo has the strength advantage. He's not going to probably get taken down. He's going to be the superior striker, and I feel like he can even get on top and be effective there. So I got Alonzo Menifield in this one, and I think he's going to be able to maybe even get Ed Herman out of there early in that first round. This next one, we got a fun fight. This should be a war right here with Zahabi taking on Vince Morales. Or Drako Rodriguez, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the guy they both fought. But Drako Rodriguez, he was a victim of a brutal knockout in his last fight, actually at the hands of Zahabi. He was the favorite, but Zahabi shut all that down, and now Drako will be looking to rebuild in his second UFC fight, get his first UFC win. And there isn't a ton of footage out there on him, but he's a boxer, he's a good submission artist. It seems like he's kind of like an opportunistic finisher. He's fast, he has good pressure. In his last fight, he worked a few good leg kicks in there before he got countered, but he wants to kind of work the counter right crosses. He will mix in the left hook, and he has educated hands. He can make fighters pay by hitting them with shots they don't see coming. He mixes it up by going to the body, then back up to the head. He can throw some longer combinations when he can back fighters up, and he has 2 knockouts in his career. He definitely has some hand speed and some power, but he got knocked out pretty badly with one power lead cross against Zahabi. He tried to throw a lead rear uppercut, which is always a dangerous strike, and it got him put out cold. And that makes me kind of question his chin a little bit because he did run into a good shot, but Zahabi isn't really known for power, and Rodriguez got taken out. And sometimes Rodriguez can run into shots. I feel like he also doesn't do that good off the back foot. He's not a super high volume guy. He's just looking to kind of land the kill shot on the feet. He's not really an offensive grappler. Sometimes he will level change into takedowns after combinations, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him mix it up in this fight. I just don't think his wrestling is that high level, and he doesn't really have great top control. His defensive wrestling is not good. He more likes to, attack submissions, jump on guillotines, work his guard off bottom, and he's really good in the scrambles at catching submissions. He caught that triangle when his opponent swept him with an omoplata on the Contender Series. And he has 3 submission wins. He is going to have the advantage on the ground in this fight, most likely. And he also has good cardio. He's fought in 5-round fights before. But he's going to be taking on a tough, durable guy in Vince Morales, who has had 4 UFC fights so far. He's gone 1-3 in those fights, so he hasn't done very well. He dropped his last 2 fights in a row, and he hasn't won a fight in over 2 years. But the last time Morales did pick up a win, it was over Zahabi, the fighter who did just knock out Rodriguez. And Vince Morales has been nothing short of entertaining in the UFC. He's had all decisions, but they've been fun back and forth wars outside of his last fight where he was finished. And, he's a good striker. He's light on his feet. He has a, wide hands down stance, really fast, crisp hands, good punching combinations, really good jab. He'll double, triple up on the jab. He has a really nice short left hook. And in the pocket, he has really nice, clean punching combinations, really nice, long, leaping right hand if he can back you up. And his counter left hook is pretty nasty. He can land it going forward or going backwards. He's aggressive. He keeps a good pace. He will mix in some leg kicks in there, but his leg has actually been the one that's gotten chopped up in his last couple fights. He's very flat-footed. He stands heavy on that lead leg, but I feel like he's pretty durable. He showed a strong chin against Yadong Song, took a lot of big shots. and he has 5 knockouts. I think out of these two guys, he has the power advantage. As far as the wrestling goes, Morales isn't a grappler. He very rarely goes for takedowns or the clinch. He was a former wrestler, but he doesn't use it in MMA. His defense is pretty good. He's hard to take down. I feel like he's going to be able to keep it on the feet in this fight. He does do a good job sprawling on double legs and then circling to the back. He will maybe try to do that if he can, deny one of the takedown attempts from Drako Rodriguez. But I think these guys are going to box, and I'm going to pick Morales here. I think he throws a little more volume. I think he keeps it long. I think he's going to be able to pick and pull, stay out of the pocket war. And I think that Morales is the more durable fighter. The blueprint to beat Morales is out there, though. Use leg kicks, work the takedowns. Rodriguez could try to use that game plan. Maybe he'll hit a submission in some sort of scramble. But his game is boxing like Morales' is, and I don't think he could take Morales down. I just think on the feet, Morales is going to pressure, land more numbers. And, with Drako having a questionable chin, he may be able to hurt him and take him out. I think Morales is shown to be pretty durable. And Rodriguez is more of a guy that gets a lot of his wins off getting finishes. So if he can't finish Morales, I think that he's going to lose the fight. So that's why I'm going to go with Vince Morales. Up next here, we got a high-level fight with Rafael Fiziev taking on Bobby Green. And, the cat's kind of out of the bag now on Rafael Fiziev. Actually was able to bet on him his last 2 fights, I think against Moicano and against Mark Chiesa at plus money. If it wasn't plus money against Moicano, it was like a very short favorite. But now they got him as a huge minus 330 favorite coming in against the veteran action fighter, a pretty good striker, very skilled guy in Bobby Green. And the fight is fun on paper matchup-wise because obviously both these guys, slick strikers. I think that Fiziev is a level above on the feet. Bobby Green, he has that hands-down style, good boxer, tries to land those pull counters. He has decent kicks, but I feel like being that, having that hands down, wanting to go speed for speed type of thing with a guy like Rafael Fiziev, slip and rip pull counters, I think that's going to be a futile decision, man, because you see Rafael Fiziev, he's so fast, his reactions are so good, and he's so crisp and technical with his strikes, man. No wasted movement. He's going point A to point B, super sharp, just very clean striking. I feel like he's just cleaner than Bobby Green. With the hands, it's a lot closer. I think Bobby Green actually has maybe slicker boxing, but Fiziev's a good pot shotter. He has good movement, and his kicks are just next level in comparison to Bobby Green. He has more power. He throws them much better. He can throw kicks with both legs. His kicks come so fast, man. They're so nice. He's very, very dangerous, and he has really good takedown defense. Super good athlete. He's very hard to control on the ground. If you do take him down, he's a young guy and he's improving. And Bobby Green, I don't really necessarily see him being able to take down Rafael Fiziev, man. I think that it's going to be a stand-up fight, and I see Fiziev kind of controlling the distance, backing Bobby Green up with the feints, with the forward pressure. I think Green may have some moments. Bobby Green's a super talented, slick guy, and more recently, I don't think he's lost a fight in a while. They have him having these recent losses that I actually felt like he won, so he could be on a 6-7 fight win streak, and he lets a lot of volume off. He's accurate. He, is a guy that has pretty good defense as well. He's hard to hit. Actually, Fiziev has been a guy that's been hit more often of the two, and also, Bobby Green has the grappling in his back pocket, but I just don't think he's going to be effective taking down a guy like Fiziev, who's incredibly hard to take down. I think it's going to be a striking fight, and anytime you could see Bobby Green almost a 3-1 favorite, it kind of makes you, hesitate a little bit. You kind of want to think maybe I want to pick him. But I just think Fiziev, the difference is going to be, they might be close with the hand combinations. Maybe if it was a boxing fight, I think Green could give him some trouble. But I see Fiziev ending a lot of combinations with body kicks, ending a lot of combinations with head kicks. And I think that's going to be the difference in the fight. I think he's going to start to wear on Bobby Green a little bit with the kicks. And I also feel like the speed difference is going to be there for Fiziev as well, which Bobby Green probably is not used to. And it could end up being a thing where Bobby Green gets caught with some shots and taken out. So I feel like Fiziev is just the better striker. I don't think that Green has the wrestling to get it to the ground. And I feel like eventually he's going to kind of settle and oblige that striking fight. And I just see Fiziev getting the better of him. So I'm going with Rafael Fiziev to get the win. Man, hell of a fight here to kick off the main card. We got Yadong Song taking on Kenney. And before we start the main card breakdowns, just hit the like button if you haven't hit it. Let's try to get these likes up for this video. But man, this is a sick fight right here. Two young guys that are improving. I mean, Kenney's a little bit older at 30 years old, but he's improving rapidly. He doesn't look old in his performances. And man, what a fight this is, man. We got both fighters coming off recent losses, but their stocks didn't drop much in my opinion. Yadong Song had a tough scrap, really good war with Kyler Phillips where he was outstruck in a really close bout. Kenney went in there with a legend in Dominic Cruz, and he was competitive, man. He, dropped the decision, but it was a split decision. I feel like Dominic Cruz won the fight more clearly than that. But one of these two guys is going to have the chance to rebound now, and obviously they're both coming out of good gyms. We got Yadong Song coming out of Team Alpha Male, so should be riding some momentum there. We got Kenney coming out of Fight Ready. And, Song's the much younger guy. He's 23 years old. So I feel like he is the much better long-term prospect. But Kenney, what he has is he has an indomitable spirit, man. He has an indomitable will to go along with pretty good skills, and he's improving rapidly. He's well-rounded, so you can never count him out of a fight. But Yadong Song, in terms of the intangibles in this fight, he's going to have the size advantage. He's, in my opinion, going to have the athleticism advantage, the speed advantage, and the power advantage on the feet. So I feel like Song, he's a marauder, man. He comes forward and he tries to work that 3-2 combination. His best punch is probably that power right cross. Super durable, closes the distance really well, super fast guy, and if he connects clean, he could knock you out. And, Kenney, he's more of a technician. He's still a hittable guy that likes to come forward, get into wars as well, but he's a southpaw, more of a kicker. I feel like Yadong Song is the significantly better puncher. I feel like he has less fat on his punches. He throws faster punches. He has more power. Just a better puncher for sure. But Kenney, he has really good kicks, man. Really good left kicks to the legs, inside-outside leg kicks. He'll throw body kicks. He doesn't really throw a lot of high kicks, but that's something that maybe he's going to try to throw here because we've seen Yadong Song get hit with a few high kicks in his fights. And I feel like what it's going to come down to in this one, though, is I do think Song is going to get the better of the striking just because I feel like he's going to be able to pressure forward. He's going to throw the more volume, and he's going to have the power and speed edge. So I feel like he's just going to be able to land clean shots on Kenney, maybe land the more effective shots on Kenney that hurt Kenney. And, you can see a big reaction from him for the judges, whereas I think with Yadong Song, he's not going to get hurt like that. I think he's going to be, a lot more durable and sturdy when he gets hit. And I do think that if they just strike for 3 rounds, Yadong's going to be pushing Kenney back, and he has the better cardio, so he will, in that 3rd round, in my opinion, be a little bit fresher. For Casey, I feel like he has to go back to his wrestling, his grappling, and get the win in this one, and that's going to be tough, in my opinion, even though I think Song Yadong has kind of questionable takedown defense, and when you get him tired, like early on, he's a very good scrambler, he's hard to hold down, but in that 3rd round, we've seen both Cody Stamann and Marlon Chito Vera have more elongated top control time in the 3rd round. But Kenney, like I said, is a guy that slows down. So I just don't know if early on maybe he could hit a takedown or two. I don't think he's going to hold Song down. I don't know if he's going to have the cardio in that 3rd round to, keep wrestling, cement the takedown, and steal the fight that way. I mean, I do think this is going to be a very competitive fight, though, because Kenney throws a lot of volume. And Song Yadong is a hittable guy. Both these guys are kind of hittable, but I feel like Song has better defense still. But, if Kenney can get his kicking game going, land a lot of kicks, maybe to the legs, to the body, slow down Song a little bit, land some punches, it's going to be close. I mean, especially if Casey can mix in some takedowns. I feel like this could be even like a 50-50 type of fight. So I do feel like the line is correct. I think this is one of the best fights on the card. And I'm just going to edge it towards Song Yadong. I think that he's going to be able to have the superior cardio, walk him down, defend the takedowns early, make Kenney a little bit kind of weary to shoot takedowns late because his gas tank is getting a little bit down, and then land the bigger shots on the feet, better boxing, and just kind of win the striking. So I'm going to go with Song Yadong here. Next here we got another women's fight with Tecia Torres taking on Angela Hill. And Tecia Torres has stuck it to the people who tried to throw dirt on her grave after losing 4 fights in a row. You know, she proved she's still at world level. She dominated Brianna Van Buren, who was a hot prospect, finished Sam Hughes in the first round. And now she's taking on another fight where she's going to be kind of defending her position in the rankings as she's rematching Angela Hill. And this is a bit of a grudge match as they were scheduled to fight at one point earlier this year. Torres was forced to pull out and then was campaigning for a higher ranked opponent after Hill lost to Michelle Waterson. And this led to Angela Hill calling out Torres multiple times, and eventually, you know, they got the fight. So Angela Hill, she's gotten her wish, and, you know, she's shown the best form of her career even at 36 years old, which is pretty impressive. She came up just short against Michelle Waterson and Claudia Gadelha, but bounced back in dominating fashion against Ashley Yoder, and she could easily be on a 6-fight win streak with different judges, but she's yet to get that marquee win in the UFC. Beating Tecia Torres would signify a lot. It would show her progression from when she first entered the UFC, as Torres was able to dominate her over 3 rounds in the first fight, or not really dominate her, but just win a clear-cut decision. And it would be that win that she needed to, you know, get into the title picture. And Tecia Torres, she's going to be at a significant height and reach disadvantage. And if you saw even the first fight, she can't really strike with Hill, even a much worse version of Angela. Torres, she likes to close the distance with punching combinations, and she sometimes starts or finishes the combinations with kicks. But she isn't like a Michelle Waterson, though, who's good at using her kicks and staying on the outside. Torres relies on her hands, so she's going to have to close that gap, try to get on the inside on Hill. And that's where I see Hill catching her as she comes in, just having superior hands, firepower. Angela Hill has really, in my opinion, upped her striking game pretty significantly. She's gotten a lot better physically in terms of her speed and her power, in my opinion. She throws a lot more straight shots. I think her shot selection is much better. She has a lot better movement as well. She's not as sloppy. She doesn't overextend. She has a lot better footwork. So I just think if you look at the two girls from their first fight to now, I think Torres is pretty similar to what she was. The only difference is I think she kind of mixes in her kicks a little bit better and she switches stances a little more. Angela has gotten better, you know, skill set wise significantly in my opinion, physically, and I think she's just a much better fighter. Grappling wise, in the first fight, Tecia Torres was able to hit some pretty easy takedowns on Angela Hill, and Hill did defend quite a few takedowns, but she obviously wasn't even close to where she was as a grappler today. And I think Torres is going to struggle to get the fight to the ground this time, just purely for the fact that Hill has gotten a lot better with her takedown defense, and she's gotten a lot better just with the distance control. Physically, I think she's much stronger than when they first met. And I think cardiovascularly, even though she's slowed down, she's been in 5-round fights now, and I think that her cardio is much better. Even in the first fight when Torres hit the takedowns, she really wasn't able to do much to Angela Hill. She was able to hold her down, but Hill even got back up to her feet a couple times. They even had a referee stand up, so it wasn't like she was doing damage. I don't see Torres having the same type of an advantage in the clinch she had before. I don't think she's going to be able to control Hill there. I actually think Hill will be able to do the damage in the clinch and disengage. I see this fight playing out kind of similar to Tecia Torres' fight with Marina Rodriguez. I just think that Angela's going to be too slick. She's going to pressure, use combinations, be, you know, a better striker, and kind of dominate on the feet. And I feel like Torres isn't going to be able to close that gap effectively. I think she's not going to be able to get the takedown. And I think after getting tagged up a few times, I think she's going to be a little bit hesitant to close the distance with her combination punching. So I just see, you know, Angela Hill picking up this victory and looking pretty good here. What an awesome fight we got right here. Vincente Luque versus Michael Chiesa. This could easily be a, you know, main event fight on a fight night card, but Vincente Luque is inching closer and closer to that elusive UFC title shot. His last match was somewhat of a coming out party. He knocked down and then submitted former UFC champion Tyron Woodley. It was a back and forth war. And for hardcore fans, that's what Luque's been known for, man, for years. He goes in there, goes for the kill. He loves to brawl. And the UFC has match made him really well in that regard. If you look at his career outside of the fight with Michael Graves, he's fought a lot of brawlers, a lot of hitters, and that's the only high-level wrestler or grappler that he's ever faced. I mean, he also fought Leon Edwards, who took him down, but Michael Chiesa is a new problem to solve for Luque. Michael Chiesa stamped himself a bona fide welterweight contender. He's gotten wins over RDA and Neil Magny. Both were pretty dominant victories. And if he can take out Vincente Luque, there won't be much separating him from a UFC title shot either. This is a huge fight for both guys. And while I don't really feel the winner will get a title shot, they'll probably be like one fight away. This is kind of a quintessential striking versus grappler fight. Vincente Luque is a black belt of jiu-jitsu and he can grapple. And Chiesa, he's a southpaw, he's long, he's awkward, he can strike a little bit. So neither fighter is really a specialist, but in this particular fight, they both will come in with very obvious game plans. Michael Chiesa's not going to be able to strike with Vincente Luque. He's very hittable, but he's never, been knocked out. And that's something that, he actually is going to be able to probably show in this fight is durability. And Luque is a very hittable guy, so I do think Chiesa, could stay long, land some crosses, and, land some shots on the feet. But just overall, Luque has a chin of steel, the touch of death, great footwork. And I just see Chiesa maybe getting overwhelmed if he can't get the takedowns by Luque's pressure, technique, power. Chiesa in this fight, though, is going to want to get it to the mat, obviously work from top position. He's an exquisite grappler. He's shown the ability to hit quick submissions, grind out long fights, and he's not far off the record for most rear naked chokes in UFC history. His last two fights, he took down and controlled two fighters that are pretty hard to take down and control. And Luque, on the other hand, has been grinded out in two of his UFC losses, but he hasn't really shown recently how his takedown defense really is, or his get-ups, anything like that. Michael Graves exposed Luque. He took him down 7 times, but that was in 2015. Leon Edwards was also able to hit 3 takedowns, have some significant top control time, and that was a big part of his victory as well versus Luque. Luque was also submitted twice before coming to the UFC, so grapplers have been an issue for him. It makes sense because unless you're Wonderboy Thompson and can control the range better than almost anyone in MMA history, I mean, who wants to strike with Vincente Luque? The guy's a fucking tank who can, take a baseball bat to the head and he keeps coming forward. He loves violence and he has the power to knock you out, rearrange your face, and great cardio, great volume. So he's a beast and a scary guy. If you brawl with him, you're going to be left sprawled out like Tyron Woodley. And, the smartest game plan to beating him, close the gap, smother that power, put him on his back, and you could see the contrast in their two fight styles just in the stats alone. Michael Chiesa, he only averages 1.89 strikes landed per minute, and Vincente Luque averages 5.74, but Chiesa averages 3.6 takedowns per 15 minutes. Luque only averages 0.66, so this is going to be a battle of, who can implement their game a little bit better. And the thing about it is I feel like Vincente Luque is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but off of his back, he's not that dangerous, and he also gets very tired quickly in grappling heavy fights. One thing about Luque, though, is you have to be careful shooting in on him because he does have a nasty front choke series. He has a lot of really good front chokes, darces, anacondas, guillotines, and we have seen Michael Chiesa get darsed by George Masvidal before. But when you look at the style of Vincente Luque, he's a forward pressure guy. He wants to stay in your face, walk you down. I feel like that's going to give every opportunity for Michael Chiesa to close that gap, get him in the clinch, try to hit the takedowns, single leg, double legs. And I just feel like we haven't seen enough from Vincente Luque, in my opinion, to say he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns or deny that clinch control of a guy like Michael Chiesa. Chiesa's a big guy for the division. He did fight at 55s, but I feel like he's one of the biggest fighters in that division. And his grappling is just top notch. He's gotten much better with his transitions, his control on top. He's not as submission oriented, so I feel like in this fight, when he gets the takedowns, he's going to be more weary of keeping that top control, winning the fight. And I also feel like he could get a rear naked choke here because Luque does give his back to stand up. He also, just hasn't shown the best takedown defense, man, throughout his career. So I'm actually going to go with Michael Chiesa to go in here and either get a rear naked choke victory or a decision win over Vincente Luque. So give me Michael Chiesa in this one. The co-main event is an absolutely phenomenal fight. We got Jose Aldo, who got back on track in his last match, defeating Marlon Vera by decision. This will be Aldo's first fight of 2021, and a win puts him right back in the mix for the title. Obviously, he's a legend. He has nothing left to prove, but this move to 135 pounds has seemed to reinvigorate him a little bit. He's very spirited, and he had a great performance against Peter Yan for the belt. Came up just short. I'm sure he wants another crack at him. beating Pedro Munhoz, in my opinion, would put him one fight away from fighting for the title again. Pedro Munhoz, he's been hovering around the top of the division for years now. He has had mixed results recently, and he's been fighting the best of the best, though, and put out great performances, man. His last match against Jamey Rivera was a great fight. The last time Pedro Munhoz had an opportunity to fight a legend, he lost, but it was a very controversial decision against Frankie Edgar, so I'm sure he's hungry and wants to collect a name like Jose Aldo for his legacy. So, I mean, man, this is just an absolutely phenomenal fight. We got the bigger guy by a pretty significant margin in Jose Aldo, and that's going to be a big factor, in my opinion, the 5-inch reach advantage that he has, because Pedro Munhoz, he's a guy that comes forward, and I feel like Aldo, with the jab, he has one of the best jabs in the UFC, and that's going to be a big factor in this fight. I feel like early on the jab is going to be huge, and Pedro has to shut off the jab with the low kicks, man. That has to be, the main thing that he sets up early is those leg kicks on Jose Aldo. He has to maybe drop that first round by just go to the body, go to the legs, try to really wear on him, and then, once he gets a little bit slowed down, that's where you could close that distance, force him into those, more crazy combinations on the feet, like exchanges, and you could start really kicking him hard. Because Pedro, that's his game, man. He's one of the best kickers in the UFC, bar none. He has some of the best low calf kicks. He showed that against Jamey Rivera, just completely neutralized that guy. And his front kicks to the body are just vicious as well. So Pedro's going to be trying to rip to all parts of the body. And the thing about Pedro, his boxing to me is not very good. He's very wild, kind of slow, hittable. And the one thing about him, though, is he's super, super durable and he has power. So if you brawl with him, he can knock you out, just like he did against Cody Garbrandt. But against a guy like Jose Aldo, who has super fast hand speed, great technique, shot selection, footwork, I think, if this was a boxing match, I think Aldo could win 12 rounds to 0. But the thing about it is, it's just going to come down to if Pedro could get work early done with those kicks, either hurt the leg of Aldo, slow him down to the body, then it's going to get really interesting in the last 2 rounds. But if he doesn't, I just think Aldo is going to be able to cruise behind that reach. I think if this was the smaller octagon, that would help Pedro a lot more as well. But they're going to be in the bigger cage for this one. Aldo's going to have a lot of room to move around. And I think that, he's going to be hitting that jab a lot. He's going to be working the body himself with those big rips with the hooks that he uses, straight shots. He's going to be trying to touch Pedro. And he has big power, man, like more power than most regular 135ers. So if he starts landing a couple clean combinations on Pedro Munhoz, I know the guy has one of the best chins ever, but he could definitely go out, I feel like, in this first round. I could see Aldo getting another vintage knockout, but it's just going to, I feel like that third round, even if Aldo's up 2-0 and cruising, could be hell for him, because I just think that Pedro's a guy that keeps coming. He has that cardio and he breaks you down. And Aldo did eat a lot of leg kicks in his last fight against Chito Vera. He checked quite a few. And obviously, he's one of these guys that he's never really going to show that he's that badly hurt, in my opinion. But they could add up here. But I just feel like, personally, I'm rolling with my guy Jose Aldo again, man. Usually he's facing these very young guys. This time he's actually going to be younger than Pedro Munhoz. And, I feel like he has the speed advantage, way more technical boxing, the movement. He's going to have a 5-inch reach. They're going to be in the big cage. And I just think Aldo's going to be able to really touch him up, piece him up at range, make it really hard for Pedro to close that distance. I think that he's going to be chopping at the legs as well. Pedro doesn't check low kicks, and Aldo's one of the few guys that could maybe have even more powerful low kicks than Pedro Munhoz. And I just feel like, Aldo's going to hit different than some of these 35ers that Pedro has fought as well, and maybe even hurt Pedro pretty significantly, maybe drop him a couple times or take him out. And I just feel like Aldo's going to put on a masterclass, either get a finish or it's going to be, him dominating for 2 rounds, putting on that, surgical clinic, and then having to kind of survive that third round, coast to the end. But I'm going to go with Jose Aldo here to pick up another win, make it 2 in a row at bantamweight, and, bring him right back in the mix. And here we go, man. We got the main event, Derrick Lewis taking on Ciryl Gane. This is going to be for the UFC Interim Heavyweight Championship of the World. And, fuck, man. First off, all we got to talk about right away is just what this crowd is going to be like. It's going to be crazy for Ciryl Gane, man. I mean, this is going to be him fighting in Houston, Texas, in Derrick Lewis's home city. The crowd's going to be going nuts. Derrick Lewis is going to be extremely pumped. And he's going to be having to not only face Derrick Lewis, but he's going to have to face that crowd, face that moment, and be big enough to stand up to it. And that's, something that a lot of fighters struggle with. But, I feel like Ciryl Gane, 9-0 in his career, stepped up every time, been able to, take that jump and prove that he's at that level. He's fought a similar fighter a little bit. I mean, obviously, I feel like Jairzinho's not as dangerous as Derrick Lewis. He's not as athletic and he's not as big. But, he's a knockout artist that's very explosive, kind of low volume, and tries to hit you with that kill shot. So it's similar to Derrick Lewis. But one thing about Derrick Lewis, man, is he's just a weird guy, man. He could be losing the whole fight, come back and win. His technique looks terrible. I mean, he had that quote, I believe, earlier where he was saying, if you let me get the title, that you all should be ashamed of yourselves, that letting a guy with no skill get the belt. But he really does play himself down. I mean, the guy does have good skill. And another thing about this fight is he's 10-0 in Texas, Derrick Lewis. So every single time he's fought in his home state, he's gotten the victory. And, that's something else that you kind of got to factor in a little bit, because it's just, maybe that crowd and everything just gets him super pumped up, ready to go, and he only needs one shot to win the fight. That's what makes him so dangerous, man. He's another, he doesn't have the power, even close to the power, in my opinion, of a Francis, but he has that same kind of eraser where, when you get to that level of power, it doesn't really matter. You could still land one and knock someone out. But, I mean, obviously when you look at this fight, you're just looking at it skill for skill. Ciryl Gane is the more skilled striker, man. I mean, he has much better footwork. He has faster feet. I mean, in terms of he cuts angles really well. He could switch stances. He, can move laterally, forward, backwards. Derrick Lewis is kind of a guy that, he just goes straight forward, straight back. And he has a tendency to, back himself up to the cage where there's not really a lot of outs. I mean, you could really kind of, pick him apart there. The thing is, he does kind of try to lull you so he can kind of get you to stand right in front of him so he can counter you type of thing with a big explosive shot off the cage. But I feel like the one thing that Derrick Lewis has over Ciryl Gane is maybe explosion. Like, he can explode into a shot and, move really quickly. But Ciryl Gane just has that crazy footwork, man. I don't think Derrick Lewis has ever fought someone as fast on their feet as Ciryl Gane. So I feel like Ciryl Gane, if Derrick Lewis is, bulling forward, he's going to be able to, find that angle, move out of the way, kind of angle off, keep it at range, use his kicking game. And I feel like, his hands aren't that great. That's where, Derrick Lewis definitely could, if he can close that distance in a big overhand, land an uppercut, he can knock him out clean for sure. But Ciryl has some basic things that he uses. I mean, he has that stiff jab, that really nice jab that he uses. He pops it out there. It's quick, and he throws it hard. So I feel like that jab is going to give Derrick Lewis a lot of issues. He's going to be at a reach disadvantage, which Derrick Lewis usually has the reach advantage in most of his fights. But, I mean, Derrick Lewis is just going to be sitting on everything, man. He's going to be trying to land that big overhand counter, the big uppercut counter, the big hook counter. Everything is usually coming from that right side. But, if he lands that one shot, he's going to take you out. And he's good at finding his reads. He stays patient. He's very calm and composed in there. So he could take a beating and come back later. He's good at kind of lulling guys into a false sense of security, and then he just pounces on them. But, with Ciryl Gane, it's different than a lot of these guys that he's been fighting. I feel like Ciryl Gane is going to be turned on over 5 rounds. He's really going to use a lot of kicks, keep the range. He's going to use his jab. He's not going to let Derrick Lewis, get into that kind of distance that he wants to find that kill shot and just out-technique him very easily. I don't think Derrick Lewis is going to be able to hit takedowns on a guy like Ciryl Gane. I don't think Ciryl Gane is going to get tired. He's proven over 5 rounds that he can keep the same pace. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He doesn't get hit at all. Usually in many of his fights, very flush. But man, I mean, just something about it in this fight just kind of, you can never count out Derrick Lewis, man, and it's scary. It's scary betting against him, even picking against him, because the guy just he's a freak, man. He's one of the best heavyweights in UFC history somehow without, having that same level of skill set. But, I mean, Man, like I said, UFC Derrick Lewis plus 260 odds. You almost have to try to take a shot on him, but I just feel like with this type of fight, this is going to be the best striker that Derrick Lewis has ever fought in his career. And when you look at Derrick Lewis fighting strikers, he has struggled a little bit with guys with good movement. Sean Jordan, good mover, was able to beat him twice, head kicked him in one of those fights. Matt Mitrione, athletic, good mover, gave Derrick Lewis issues, knocked him out. JDS, Mark Hunt. So these guys that have been decent movers have given Derrick Lewis some issues. I feel like the footwork is going to be the big difference. The kicking game of Ciryl Gane, just the fight IQ, and I think he's going to be able to just beat Derrick Lewis over 5 rounds. One thing about Derrick Lewis is you have to go to his body, man. That's where he's weak, is to the body, because to the head, the guy could take a beating. I mean, he's super durable. So Ciryl needs to attack the body heavy. I actually did see, like, on I'm not embedded. I don't know. Maybe it was a countdown. I'm not sure. But I was watching some hype video footage previous to coming up for this fight, and Ciryl Gane was attacking the body a lot. So I feel like that could be a part of his game plan in this one. That would be very smart. And I'm gonna go with Ciryl Gane, but fuck, man, this fight's in Texas. It's in H-Town. We got Derrick Lewis. He might be able to pull something out of the hat. You never know. You can never count the guy out. But there you have it, guys. That's the breakdown this week for UFC 265 full card breakdown. Make sure to hit that like button once again. I want to try to get 200 likes on this video minimum. That would be amazing. And put a comment down below who you think's gonna win in the main event, co-main event. What's your favorite fight of the night? What parlays you got going? Anything like that. As far as my most confident pick, it's gonna be Alonzo Menifield. The parlay of the week is gonna be Alonzo Menifield and Munoz Jr. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.